This is Sandy Stride. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on Twilight Showcase Radio. Well, we are absolutely honored to have our featured guest tonight for a Who Cares special, and that is Ed Perry, the owner of WATD, as well as an award-winning radio journalist. Ed, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, just fine, thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I still have a little cold, so if I have to cough every once in a while, don't worry. It's not the house. It's just the cold.
Well, you'll be in good company. There's a lot of that going around.
Yes,
so.
There certainly is.
Absolutely.
Certainly is. But it's really nice to see the facility that you have here in Plymouth and down on Whitehorse Beach. And I've never been here before, and I expected I'd just come in and see a living room or something with a couple of people. But this is a real studio.
Well, Thank you.
It's really classy. And
Thank you so
much. You
much.
get pictures signed by a lot of artists, including that Peter, Paul, and Mary album signed by a couple of them.
Yes.
It's amazing.
That's from back in the day, that album, that old
Back
album.
in the day, you got it.
Absolutely. Well, and again, as we always say at the end of every show, we would not be here without you, Ed. And we're so grateful that you gave us the opportunity to air Twilight Showcase. We're almost up to 10 years. In this April, it'll be 10 years.
That's pretty doggone good.
We really appreciate it, and we're just so thrilled to have you here, and we hope this will be the first of many more times.
Well, it's certainly a lovely place.
Well, thank you so much. And we're going to be joined tonight, as most of our audience members know, we alternate between short interview segments and poignant music, which tonight will be brought to you by Mike Doyle, who's been featured several times on Twilight Showcase, always a superb singer-songwriter. And then we're going to get our own Keith James, our co-host, who's locked behind the board there, but we're going to release him tonight and let him come up on stage for a few songs that actually, in many cases, WATD, members of WATD, including Ed Perry, asked us to write for particular occasions, so it's a nice way to tie that in with our talking tonight about the history of WATD.
Yeah, we have a lot of it.
I know you do. 40 years.
Yeah, we've been here for quite a while.
Well, at least we'll get a little taste of it tonight, and more to come, because you have some terrific, very, very memorable stories to share with us.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun.
WATD does an outstanding job, and really you're one of the few independent, family-owned stations left. There's so many being taken over by the big guys, so we're grateful for that too.
Yeah. There's lots of stories behind what happened there.
And we're going to get into that in just a minute. I just want to let everybody know that in addition to watching us tonight on to listening to us tonight on WATD, we are still being aired as well on WMEX, which is currently owned by WATD, and WMEX is 1510 AM, as well as WBMS 1460 AM, and then it's also 101 FM. Am I right about that?
That's right. Yeah, that's
101.1, excuse me.
101.1 is called a translator.
Okay.
I don't know why they call it a translator, because it does speak English. But anyway, it's all sorts of wonderful facilities that we have now, but the facilities are nothing without the people to program them.
And we're going to talk more about that later, because you have some really exciting news about what you're doing on these channels, and we will talk more about that. So hold that thought, because we're going to make them wait for that. We're also on 959 WATD.com, and if you would like to also see the show, that's not hard to do. You can just go to Facebook Live, and it's on my Facebook page, and there's two ways to get to that. If you're on Facebook, you can look up Sandy Stride, STREID as in David. My middle name is Tannenbaum. You'll see me there. You can click on it there, and here's the shortcut, Twilight Showcase.org. Again, that's TWILIGHT TwilightShowcase.org. That most devices that will take you right to my Facebook page. And remember, if you go up to those three little dots on the right-hand corner, click on those. You can save the video, and you can even go down below and click share onto your own page. Then all of your friends will see Twilight Showcase, and you get to watch it over and over again. And believe me, tonight's episode, you will want to see over and over again. We already have a great Facebook audience tuning in, and at 10 o'clock when we do our bonus tracks, we'll also do shout-outs. We have so many great people in the audience tonight, and they'll also be joining us for bonus tracks, and that includes Chris Botello, terrific singer-songwriters, John Oliver, David Jackson, and I can't get the camera all the way around, but John Donahue is also doing John Donovan. I do that all the time. John Donovan is shooting high-quality video tonight, which will appear on YouTube later on in the week. We've also got Barbara Smith Milmore, our #1 fan, helping out tonight, and Pam Carr is around here somewhere, but I think will be back. Tim McKinney, how are you doing?
Doing well, Sandy.
He's holding down the fort at WATD, and I think we're going to get him to chime in now and then tonight. Am I right, Tim?
Yeah, a little bit.
In
Big guy in the house.
you and whoever else might happen to be in the studio are there. Everybody's welcome. All right. So to sum it up, coming up tonight, outstanding singer-songwriters, journalists, and entrepreneurs share memorable radio moments with more passion and purpose right here on Twilight Showcase Radio. Okay, Ed. Let's tell them a little, I think people might think that because the big guys go around, they write a check, they buy a radio station, they go on the air, that it's not all that hard. But you worked many years and had many obstacles to overcome just to get to the point where you could have your own radio station. I mean, you faced all kinds of obstacles. Do you want to tell people a little about that?
Well, I like radio. Ever since I was a little kid, I like radio. And when I was probably in fact, I was in second grade at the West Natick Elementary School, and we had a visit from the chairman of the school committee in Natick, who was a musician and had a band and played some of the big jazz and big band songs. And he came in with some of his band members, and he wanted to show us how bands got on the radio. And he had a wireless microphone, and this was in 1947.
Wow.
And he had a couple of radios that he plugged in at the back of the classroom. And then he and his musicians, they took the wireless microphone, and they put on a radio show. They talked, they played the music, and all of the music came out of the radios in the back of the room. And suddenly, all the kids saw how radio really worked, what made it go. And I was stuck on that. And afterwards, I said to my parents, I want a wireless microphone. And finally,
everybody else wanted a puppy, right? But you wanted a microphone.
That's right, yeah. And the good thing was all you had to do was buy a battery for the wireless microphone. You never had to feed it. So they decided, what the heck, it's better than a dog. And they got me a wireless microphone. And then I have my sister, who was 2 years younger than I was, and she was just starting in starting in first grade. But I had this red, it was called a radio flyer wagon. And I would sit in the radio flyer wagon with my wireless microphone, and I'd have my sister drag me around the neighborhood. And we passed out handwritten pieces of paper telling all the neighbors that I would be doing newscasts and what frequency would be on. And then my sister would drag me around, and I'd look in their windows and I'd report on what was going on in their houses. And finally, I'm sure I sold a lot of shutters. And pretty soon I realized I wasn't going to do that kind of a newscast, but I was hooked on it. And when I when I was in high school, I won the high school science fair with a big radio transmitter that I built, and we started a pirate radio station, and we hung a big long wire up, and it was very, very well listened to in Natick, Framingham, and Wellesley, until I made a terrible mistake with it. We'd play rock and roll. We had this set up so we would play. We'd play an album of a Broadway show or the music from a movie, and we'd put that on from 6 o'clock in the evening until 7 o'clock, and the parents loved this. Because this way they could hear the Broadway music and stuff, and so they'd turn the radio on, and then at 7 o'clock it became rock and roll, and we had a huge audience of kids who couldn't get the rock and roll, but finally I did myself in because we decided we'd have a little fun with the teachers at Natick High School, and I was finishing up my junior year in Natick High School, and so we started making a little fun of the teachers with advertisements. And I still remember the advertisement that did us in with the FCC. We had a algebra teacher who was a great teacher, but she was tough, and if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, she could be mean too. And she was very large. She probably weighed about 300 pounds, and nobody wanted to mess with Anna Finn. So I wrote this ad that went like this. Hi, we're Bethlehem Steel. Well, the Korean War's been over for 3 years, so we're not making trucks or planes or tanks. We're making the stuff for your home. And we can make things that last and work. For instance, we could make you the most wonderful bed frame that you've ever had that will last in your house forever. And we can prove it. How? Well, we made Miss Finn's bed. Well, Miss Finn went to the principal of the high school, and it didn't take long for him to call the FCC and say, this can't go on. And so one day we're doing the show, and my father, who was a history professor at Boston University, and my mother, who was a Latin teacher in Needham, suddenly I hear some noise downstairs, and my father comes up and says, Eddie, get down here now. You've got some company. And there's the two guys from the FCC with their badges, and they're saying, you're shutting that transmitter off. And they threatened my father with big fines and jail time if he ever let me do it again. And then they sent me a letter to my father, threatening, a certified letter. And that was the end of me broadcasting as a pirate radio person from the house.
Wow.
My father, he's a gentle man. He was he used words to me I didn't even know he knew. It was frightening. So anyway, that's how I got into it.
So it's been a dream for a long time. It was a dream
It was
for a
something
long
I really
time
wanted to do.
Really wanted.
And I never gave up on it.
And that letter that you talked about, I believe, hangs framed on the same wall as the many, many local, regional, and national awards that you have won with WATD. So that was a beautiful combination.
I put the first and second letters from the government up there in that frame. The first one was the threat from the FCC to jail my parents. And the second was a letter of congratulations from our congressman when WATD won the overall excellence for radio news Murrow Award for the entire country.
Good combination.
So that was. So those were
many of those
were my two letters from the government.
I love it. Well.